Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Communications. This is our fourth podcast in the series where we talk to people who are making big waves in the social impact space. And today I'm delighted to welcome Illac Diaz, who is both a good friend and also the founder of EarthR Light. I've got a little bit of a spiel here, so I'm going to read it out and then I'll let him tell me whether it's accurate or not. So Illac Diaz is a social entrepreneur from the Philippines, and alongside many other ventures, he is the founder of EarthR Light, a global grassroots movement committed to providing affordable, sustainable solar light to people with limited or no access to electricity. And just for context, Illac and I first met through Desired Future Energy Prize, where he was, or EarthR Light was the winner of the prize in 2015. Illac, how was that introduction?
Absolutely incredible. You seem to have known me for many years, maybe about 10.
Yeah, it's only been half of that, but it feels like 10. So so how are you, Illac? First of all, are you okay?
We're doing well. You know, we have one of the longest lockdowns in the world. And just recently, they locked us down for Holy Week. So the COVID cases are rising. But the foundation, one of the things about social enterprise is where there's a problem, you can always look for an opportunity. And we're always saying, like, 60% of NGOs over here quit. They just close their doors because they're, community organizers. And there should be every reason why we should be quiet and not moving. And yet we're doing double our sales. So I'll tell you more about that crazy situation, how EarthR Light has been able to adapt.
Okay, that's fascinating. I think that's one of the things we kind of want to talk about today, and what we've been talking about with other people within the space is that, yeah, how have you been able to adapt and pivot during what is obviously an unprecedented global pandemic? So I think where I kind of want to start is just to tell me, what is EarthR Light? What started this whole journey for you?
I'll get the screen. I have a little 4 slides, and I wanted to share it with you. So I'm happy to say that, of course, EarthR Light is going to the World Expo out of 7,000 entries to look for change makers making big changes around the world. We were chosen, so I'm very proud to be from Southeast Asia, not just Filipino, but repping Southeast Asia. It's an Expo Live, which means live change makers. Innovation can come from anyone, anywhere, even in islands all the way here in the middle of the Pacific, just like you guys. EarthR Light basically began because typhoons are approaching, going westward. Before, they used to hockey puck up and not hit us, but now, just like Vanuatu and all that, the typhoon is going westward, so it's hitting us instead of hockey pucking up. And EarthR Light began in the first category 5 that hit the country, 350 kilometer per hour winds. That's like, being on the nose of the plane during takeoff. 10,000 people died and 4 million houses destroyed within 24 hours. So you can imagine what kind of superstar typhoons are going to be hitting us. And we went to that area, and oops, I don't know why. And basically, it was devastated. 20-foot waves submerged the city, like 20-foot storm surges, never before seen. I mean, these are very hardy people because they get hit by typhoons, but there was no way for trucks to come in. There was no way for, normal aid to come in. So we had to use like bangkas and boats. Anyway, so one of the things that EarthR Light started doing is, because kerosene lamps was popularly used, and there were thousands of people living in houses without any lights, and women and children were being affected mostly. I mean, the children rolling around in a tent would get third-degree burns from all the kerosene. They just put a hole in the can, right? And So I said, well, solar can be built by hand. We actually have one of the largest solar panel producers in the world, or solar cell producers, which was SunPower. But it was in an industrial estate. So I fought to get the solar cells. And I also had plastic bottles. There were lots of soft drink manufacturers that had bottling plants in the front. So all destroyed. So I was using what was available and electronic parts to make solar panels and solar lights. And so we started out with a plastic bottle on the roof to just let light in, filled with water and bleach, something we've been working on with Alfredo Moser. And half above, half below, so light could refract. Very cheap, but then you had thousands of people in bunkhouses. And so the most important one was really the light at night. And basically, it's a plastic bottle and electronic parts that you could get. And there was also some solar toy manufacturers in Cebu, which is next door, but did not get affected. And so I was collecting all of this to make solar lights. And the interesting thing there was I realized that nobody wanted to donate the finished solar light. It took 3 months for it to come from India or from Hong Kong, from China, to get thousands of it, because we had to wait in line in the process, right? You had to wait it for your order. And so we had people build solar lights by hand, and they paid for the materials, and then they paid me for the experience of building it.
Right.
And it just started escalating into the thousands. And so within about a month and a half, almost 2 months, we were getting companies to not just donate rice and old clothes from their cabinets, but really lights. And we also do street lights because the women, there would be, they would bring food and money from the aid camp to their tents. And we did what is called a corridor of light, so that this would give them like a very safe way to travel. And so it was very nice that the corporates would be able to build light. They would get the experience of building solar lights, mobile chargers, and street lights. They would reduce their carbon footprint by 1,000 kilos, because you don't have to burn kerosene, right? Which is 100 kilos, 200 kilos a year worth of emissions. And now with solar, for the next 5 years. And so it was really interesting. And then the women started making a business out of it, renting it out, which was fine with me as long as they maintained it. And so there were two ecosystems. I could earn, and they could earn by renting it out. And then we would displace the kerosene lamps, which were, burning fossil fuel. So Literal Light started like that. And from there, we started getting global attention through the Zayed, and of course some videos that came out of it, and we started formalizing. And so we started growing around the world, transferring technologies, but not technologies, but transferring capacities, so that the countries that wanted to imitate us did not have to import, just like we had trouble doing.
Right. That's fascinating. And I suppose since then, again, I know the background a little bit more than most people, but it really has gone global. Can you kind of tell us a bit about some of the kind of areas you've kind of worked in, some of the countries you've been to? Because I think there's a multitude of different projects you've been able to kind of go about the world and kind of implement. So please tell us a little bit more about that.
So we're in 32 countries around the world, and here's Maasai tribes that we're able to work with in Kenya. We have franchises as far as Chile. I used to spend before all of this about 2 to 3 weeks in the middle of the Amazon, just going all the way down and teaching communities how to build it. But they would always know how to get parts from Manaus. So we would always have a central city, but the women cooperative would be the one running it. So Africa is one of those places really that have a lot of crafts, women that weave beautiful, garments and headdresses and clothes. But the same thing they could do with building solar lights. And so instead of having just the business of waiting for tourists, they could now rent solar lights to their communities. Which, when we figured out, there's a like rule of thumb for us. Usually, 30% of their income goes to paying for power. So access to power is 30% of to pay for kerosene, to pay for wood, uh, or generator, right? So sometimes a community would buy enough diesel for a generator or gas for a generator, and then run it till 10 o'clock, charge all of their mobile, and then shut it down. But here's street lights that they put around the community, and then every household pays about $1, every 15 days.
Okay.
And so they would run even the public lighting system. And so it's very interesting how from a consumptive way of buying kerosene, they could now have something that they can they use the vape battery, the smoking vape batteries in the 18650s. They're really, really popular now. And so now everything to build this kind of hand-built solar is available in the developing world. So it was just a liter of light happened when the transition into micro solar, and it's just nobody was teaching them how to make a business out of it. They were selling them pre-packed, coming from factories abroad. Before we started coming in, was you have to buy it imported, patented, expensive, and then it would have a product cycle where it would break down in a year and a half, so that you could buy millions again. And so this kind of depreciation was unfair in many ways for people that lived in the poorest areas. Some had to borrow money. By the time they paid it off, they have to go start it again, because the solar lights would break again. So
Right.
this was just another more equitable way, which was to give them the capacity.
Okay, fascinating. And I suppose that kind of does, you've mentioned it, but I suppose I should explain to people what Zayed Future Energy Prize, or I think it's now called the Zayed.
Do you know much about it? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
For those who don't know, I had to live and breathe, or not had to, I lived and breathed the Zayed Future Energy Prize for a few years, supporting their comms efforts and things like that. And it's an amazing thing, but also very stressful when we come to Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. But anyway, so it's now called the Zayed Sustainability Prize, and it has gone through what I would say is like just a little metamorphosis, but it's there basically to highlight, recognize, and empower people who are making significant differences in the field of sustainability, clean technology, and things like this. And it's been amazing because people from Illac, from the Philippines, doing this kind of amazing social entrepreneurship stuff, through to I think it was Al Gore was one of the winners one year, through to an electric bus company in China. I mean, it's
the same time.
Was that you? You were the year with Al Gore. Wow. Okay, so you probably had the best Lifetime Achievement Award, I would say, that they've kind of given out. So yeah, and it's just this amazing thing because they care passionate about it. It's from the UAE, Abu Dhabi. It's held in and supported by Mazda. And yeah, it's just this amazing thing. And it also does the Global Schools Project one. So, young people who may not be being taught about sustainability prior to this are developing things that then Zayed also supports and helps kind of implement and kind of grow. So it's actually pretty amazing. I think I've seen one of the schools in Bali that's a completely carbon neutral school nowadays because of their work with Zayed and all this stuff. So it's a great thing. Anyway, so Illac and I met because of this, but can you explain both what got you to apply for the prize, and then what did winning the Zayed Future Energy Prize mean to Leader of Light, and how did that help you moving forward?
Well, I did not win it right away, so that was my third try.
Wow.
I'd love to say that you're the most brilliant person in the room, but to tell you the truth, it took me 3 tries. So They're really great contenders. It's a rough battle, but it's the Nobel Prize for clean energy.
Yeah.
Um, Winning it gave me a very powerful exposure. And the 3 years of 2 years, and then the third one getting to it, gave me a really powerful way to understand what's happening in the world of sustainability, and get to meet great friends that were part of that event. Plus, of course, there's the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, where you meet all the movers and shakers. So it was really a pivotal event for me for a global exposure.
Mhm.
I also got to meet, of course, people in the same space. So we got to open up offices in places where there was this crossover into bottom-up approaches to clean energy. We we found a way where we would be transferring manuals, and it's like, hey, you have this. Would you want to add this to your services? And so we were able to open up Nepal, India, Bangladesh. So it was a great way to start sort of meet new areas where you could get people that were serious about and committed to the clean energy space. So yeah, it was really a fantastic way. Besides the fact that we got even our competitors that didn't win, Enel, for example, the largest energy provider in Italy. They gave us funds to open up in 7 other countries. So even though you win, your closest competitor, it's all about working together there's so much work to do in making a cleaner, carbon free or lower carbon world. So definitely it's been pivotal in my growth, and of course, to get to represent the World Expo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one actually of all the Zayed.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we can talk about that in a
Yeah.
second. Yeah, I think you're right. I think one of the big things about the Zayed Future Energy Prize, Site Sustainability Prize, is just the community kind of that it builds, that it affords this kind of connections. And it's a space where I think people are working to the same goal. And I think there's not a lot of other industries where you would say this kind of laser-like focus to kind of move forward and kind of reach these targets, and help each other kind of ensure that you're delivering on clean energy, and especially those at the bottom of the kind of pyramid, so to speak. So I do think that's fascinating. Can you tell us actually, because you did touch on it, the Expo, so this is the Expo in Dubai. That's coming up. It's obviously COVID, so things have shifted a little bit. But can you explain exactly kind of what that is, what you're going to be doing, and yeah, just let us know.
So it's kind of tied into the COVID, but I can share with you a little bit.
Yep.
And so what my presence in Expo Live was 240. No, sorry, 140 change makers were to be chosen by a group called Expo Live that would represent the grassroots, right? So Expo usually is about nations representing the best of their country, but for the Expo in Dubai, they were going to have a pavilion, or they have a pavilion that is being built, where it would show the grassroots, the underrepresented grassroots that were equally doing world change. So, that public service is not only governed through the government, but also through ideas that make it big. And so 7,000 entries were put in, and they went through the grinder, and we're 140, and we have a small space in this excellent, beautiful pavilion that is right in the center of Expo. So we can tell our story, and of course, hopefully get support over 6 months. My project because I come from the Philippines, is we're very famous for this thing called people power. And people power is an uprising where it was bloodless, but it was against a dictator, and where thousands of people did a little bit by representing themselves. And so what I'm doing, I'll screen share so I can show you.
Of course.
Okay, so my idea for the World Expo is to start from here. So all of us are given $100,000 to enhance our work, but also to enhance the story that we will be given to the World Expo. And so how do you do something big despite us being locked down? So I'm a fan of this movie called Pay It Forward, where somebody does something good and then challenges other people to do good, like 5 people. And then the permutation, the ramification just goes more and more. And the context for me is it made sense because we're one of the largest global footprint when it comes to social media, right? Facebook is here, Google is here for one particular reason, and that's just to collect data and to test out new. No, I'm kidding. But so what I did was, remember, we could not go to companies anymore, which was our business strategy all over the world, where corporates would spend their time building solar lights. So we started addressing 16 million Filipinos that did not have tourists anymore. So they were buying kerosene with the money from tourists because it was expendable. It was so much money, they could burn it like there was no tomorrow. And so they would go down across rivers. They would get a truck, and then about once a week to go to the city, fill up the drum, and then the truck would bring kerosene to the village. But now that was all gone. And so the Philippines needed more than ever more sustainable electricity. And so the challenge was, you build a light, put it on Liter of Light Instagram to show that you did it, the proof of concept, and then you can challenge someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'd have bicycle volunteers to do it. So the delivery system was still intact. It was just us that was stuck for like 4 months. Next thing you know, it started ramifying, and this was brought by a lot of parents stuck with children that could not go to school. And so they were teaching them about solar lights and the United Nations SDG goal. We have a page, you could see this. It's called lightitforward.ph. So we started with 10, became 100, 1,000. Then we started crossing into the 3,000. And I started saying, how do we start rewarding all of these people, like 400 celebrities? The 400 celebrities had like 20 million subscribers. It was just going crazy. It was going crazy. And we were, remember, the nice thing about us is we don't have to import. So we can buy PVC, recycled PVC from bottle caps, plastic bottles, LED from motorcycles.
Right. Okay.
So we could scale up our production when everybody else that was imported was paralyzed. And so we started building these mega huge structures. This is the largest solar flag in all of Asia, I think maybe in the world probably. But we built it out of 3,000 people that made solar lights. Of course, we just cap it with a little bit of color. And so there, it started growing. And now we're going to build something like, we built the largest image of Rizal. I don't know if it's here. Oops, sorry. I think I made a mistake, but
no worries.
But yeah, it started growing and growing, and so we are building. Oh wait, can I show you how we started with the first 100? Would that be okay? Like really, we really did it at the how do you call it? We really did it just outside my house. Like this is my driveway.
Okay.
And every day, every day we would just make a sign and for donation. So people would donate and build solar lights, and we would make a sign out of it. So it was uh, we started from our like backyard. It was just insane. It was just insane. And then I'll show you some very famous people. Oh wait, let me show you what happened. So we basically put out a video, and I can show you this video. I hope you have time. It's just a 3-minute video, and suddenly like hundreds, if not thousands, of people started responding to it. So let me show. So here's a video that we put out, and this was like the ice bucket challenge of the Philippines. Like people challenging each other from home and helping me bring thousands of lights to the provinces where the children still had to study, but we're running out of money to pay for expensive kerosene. So
even in the midst of this pandemic, there are thousands of households and communities still being left in the dark. On behalf of the Liter of Light Foundation, we challenge you to be the spark and help us light 1,000 homes. And as we light it forward, together, we can all find our way through this darkness.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
We had like a ice bucket challenge, and we wanted to show people what it was, how many lights we had, and people were just like waiting for it the whole time, and rallying their friends to be part of the artworks. The last one was just this EarthR. We were actually featured.
Okay.
We did the largest symbol of the United Nations SDG. It's the 75th year of the United Nations, and very important for us because we're one of the 51 signatories of the SDG not the SDGs of the United Nations, and one of only 4 countries that actually actually signed on. So a lot of children are getting depressed over here. It's not like there where they get to go to school already, or they get to go out at least. Here the children have been trapped inside their houses. Yeah. It's pretty tough. There's depression rates of extremely high. And so to have something where they can be part of something one of the largest solar artworks in the world, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool from that for them. So they're like teaching their other friends how to make solar lights, and the parents are joining in. So at first it was, it was just something to keep the lights going to the communities, but then the kids building solar lights by hand and then putting their name on it, and then being part of a large image that everybody looks at, and you say, oh, I'm part of that. And then afterwards we tag them when we give them to the communities. The parents are telling us that it's been pretty heartwarming to see that.
I think that's amazing. I think, yeah, it's I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in Singapore at the moment where things have kind of opened up, but I think having something where people can feel part of, even in a time, because like you say, a lot of children now are not, that natural classroom environment, the little projects you would work on with your fellow classmates at school, all of that kind of collaboration is obviously not able to happen. So having something where they can actually still be part of, still be proud of, can still collaborate, even though it's kind of by a distance, I think is super, super important. And and I think like just not just mental health, but through education and also their learning, this is something that means that they're learning more the SDGs, they're learning more about clean energy, about all of these different things. So you have touched
without involvement, there's no commitment. And so when they learn how to build the solar lights by hand, it's a pretty good way to show them that they can be part of it, rather than having always this large scale windmills and solar farms. So yeah, it's so personal, it's so sweat equity, it's different. Nobody gives solar lights for you to build at home. It's like it's new.
No, absolutely. It's fantastic. And it obviously seems very futuristic as well. So, that's something that kind of speaks to young people. So I wanted to touch, because you spoke about COVID a couple of times, like just as an organization and you as, a founder and entrepreneur, like how have you found this, like in terms of just on a kind of organizational and kind of business, like a kind of entrepreneur kind of level, like how has COVID impacted what you do, and just kind of what you're looking to do in the future?
Well, so what you've seen and what I'm about to show you, we are scaling up. So right now, in the future, and I'll grab the screen again. So we're gonna do the 17 SDGs on top of buildings. So we're now saving 17 areas on top of buildings in parks, places where people have stopped going, and really using the opportunity to make the largest artwork in the world. But the point is, the more people that contribute to it, the more lights I can give to the provinces.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And as I said, we just did the largest solar artwork on top of the city hall. Then what our success here is for one reason. And that is because in the UAE, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of Filipinos that I represent. Not I just represent. That are there, and they know that I'm the private sector representative. And so what I'm trying to do now is, they're asking like, how can we become involved? And so I'm now organizing 4,000 of them to make this large scale artwork. And so if I can prove it here, to organize 4,000 Filipinos to make some of the largest solar artworks in the world, I'm going to now organize this for the World Expo. So that's my master plan. It's like get thousands of people to build solar lights at home, which is IATF, which is the COVID, the COVID task force. So they allowed me, because I'm building it basically from inside their homes and then gathering it and then still coming out with the largest artworks in the world. We're only 10 on the field, allowed on the field. So only 10 can gather.
Yeah.
And then after that is build these mega artworks that you could see from 1 kilometer up, which is unheard of, right? So this is our version of that, our version of the clapping. Like in Europe, they clap for the frontliners, and that's well and good. But my version is we need to do something substantial, which is I need lights that will last for the next 5 years. And I don't have a factory because there's no factories, and I need you to make it.
Yeah.
Then I want to take it, and then I'm going to give it to somebody that needs it. So it's to organize 4,000 Filipinos that will make one of the largest solar images in the world. We will have to move into to Dubai before the Expo. But once again, we have 4,000 people building it from home. So it shows the power of the people, despite the most, harshest lockdown in the world. I wanted to show you could I show you the image the image that we did for the EarthR?
Yeah, perfect. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, so this is a sort of the building, and so the kids from around the city locked up in their apartment started building the solar lights by hand, and then we would give them some acetate paper and they would cover it. But of course, it's white light, right? We'll take it out when we give it to the kids, and so they all built these solar lights by hand, and it lit up the city, and it got thousands of hits. And it's really beautiful. I mean, let me show you a short video. So this is EarthR at 8:30, and there's only 10 of us. So we started, because we're also teaching the kids about the SDGs. They're about the future that we want, and so we're telling them about sustainable energy for all. We're telling them about access to water, so access to housing. So it's pretty. So this was the last image. This was pretty much the last image, but it was all hand built by the kids. So it was it was a magnificent way for them to really be part of something like really big. And so the one with Expo is gonna be like 10, 15 times bigger than that. And so we're going to do it in the desert, but it's all going to be hand-built by Filipinos. And one of the things we'd like to do is also ask Filipinos to teach other Emiratis and other people there. So it comes out as a united artwork built by your sweat equity. So, yeah, I mean, despite the most difficult social enterprise situation in the world, we're able to survive.
Yes, it sounds like it. Yeah, so that's actually something that just everyone can note. There is a cat moving around in the background now. So yeah, so that's actually really interesting. Is just maybe to kind of start to close up a little bit is, can you just, for other social entrepreneurs out there, this, like you say, it's an incredibly difficult time, probably one of the worst times for that type of organization. Can you just kind of just maybe give some advice or talk a little bit about resilience and how you kind of get through this? Because I think some people, especially probably ones that started maybe their journey only in, say, 2019, 2018, this has been a very big shock very early on in their journey. So how do you get through this, keep going, and ensure you're able to kind of come out the other side?
Well, one of the things that are really important is the mindset. And, I always say to myself, don't turn your back on things that bother you. Because if it bothers you, then probably, or it's difficult for you, then it's difficult for everybody else. And so if you can find a way, then you stand out. You can really, how do you say, thrive when everybody else is paralyzed. So these are the things that I really look for, because when everything goes well, it's very difficult to sometimes succeed. Everybody, everything's more expensive. Everything is more difficult to get because every time it's the go. But look at it during COVID. Everybody else was paralyzed. Everybody else said, look, let's just stick around till 2021 or middle of 2022, whatever. And I said to myself, well, if I can do something and make it really successful, then this could be the unique opportunity for my foundation to be seen, that that it can come out when there's no news of anything else except COVID. Getting thousands of people to come together to do something of good, it'll be practically easy for me to communicate because there's nothing else out there. There's no public events. And so that's what really drove me. But what really was my fuel, if you call it, was the fact that when we gave lights to areas that had run out of this money for kerosene, invested really in, of course, the most technologies for sustainability was not evident there, and you start coming in with hundreds of solar lights that was to leave the villages all lit up. I mean, that one, that one's really powerful for me.
Yeah.
And,
no, absolutely. And I think that's to really look at it saying, what even though it's a terrible situation, what can I do? What are now the gaps that I can take advantage of? How can I use this? Even if it's not going to be perfect, even if you've got a pivot, you have to think about how can I then take a different step. To give an example, like the travel company I was talking to earlier last week, Seek Sophie, they've gone from having to do ethical travel across Asia to pivoting to really focusing in country in Singapore and Malaysia, and like shifting their content, shifting how they talk. But they were like, we've got to do this because we can't sit around. We still want to be delivering some of this stuff. So how do we pivot? How do we change? How do we be resilient? And I think that's a really important thing for anyone who's listening who may be really struggling, maybe trying to work out a path forward. It's kind of taking on that advice.
Well, there's really opportunities for social entrepreneurs. I mean, it's just the context of it, which is, if it's philanthropy, then you're always waiting somebody to give out of their excesses, or and so it's like sometimes waiting for Godot. You have to wait for somebody to be a charity. But with businesses, it's always pivoting. You learn how to adjust. You learn how to move. You learn how not to abandon your employees and the women social entrepreneur, the women cooperatives, the social entrepreneurs. It's a whole ecosystem. We've taken a beating. Maybe, as I said, maybe only 20% of us will survive. But going to the digital sphere has been really, really difficult for us. But we're lucky that, as I said, with some kind of grants that we were able to get, we were able to maneuver pretty quickly, and suffered a little bit of loss during the start when nobody knew what's this thing where you have to build solar lights at home. Like, who builds solar lights at home? It's just like, can it be possible? And then coming out with some of the largest imagery in the world that just shocked people. It was on the front pages of many magazines. But the point of it is each and every light will change the life for the next 5 years. But it's the same principle as other people have used this opportunity to make face masks. I mean, it's just the way, except that we use the business principles to do good.
Absolutely. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah, it's using those business principles to kind of do good. I think so obviously you've spoken a lot about communications and social media and things like this through that. I do think that's really interesting that, I mean, Liter of Light lends itself to very strong visual storytelling. I've always been, I think, if people are listening, not every organization or company has some of the very visual standpoints that can help them. But I think what you guys have done very well on your social media and things like that is not only do you build great campaigns that people can be involved in. And I think that's one of the powers of the campaign you did in the last year is something that not only can people do it at home, but they can also be part of it online. They can share the images. They can some of the images you have are so nice that I can imagine people downloading them on having them as a screensaver and stuff like that. So there's just a lot of virality about it. There's a lot of, you can see why people would engage. And I think there's a lot to learn from what you guys did on that front.
Absolutely. I mean, we're increasing, and we're replicating this in other countries. So, Italy is one of the founders is the co-host of the climate change, that will be the climate change conference that will be happening in England, in Edinburgh, actually, in Scotland. And they basically just co-hosted it because they have their own COVID situation. And so now, remember that thing I told you about how we started out making solar lights from the doorstep of our home, built by young children that donated their time? Well, we have a company that gave us 500 kits to be given to kids, and we'll be doing solar, inspiring solar messages, it's like a human billboard.
Okay.
So hopefully that's going to grow in Italy, which I have an office, and I'm going in October. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to expanding this around the world in our operations.
Okay, well, I think just on that note, I think that would be a great place to leave it. Unless you have any final words, I think people should keep an eye out for your Expo stuff. Follow Liter of Light online, because you're doing so much stuff where people can be involved in it by not being there. There's so many things you can actually do to help out with the campaigns, with the grassroots movement. You also learn a lot. So anyone who's got children listening, there's a lot you can learn so much about the need for sustainability and clean energy, the SDGs that are super important, and which it feels like now, not going to go into politics too much, but now without Trump in the White House, there feels a little bit about maybe there's a bit more positivity around the climate meeting coming up. There feels like there's a bit more, okay, we're going to really focus in on this. And then with the Expo, that's going to have a lot of undercurrents of sustainability in the UAE. It feels like there's moments coming up soon that are really going to reinforce the need to tackle climate change and kind of have these ideas. So I think, yes, I would implore everyone to find out more about Liter of Light. So if there's anything else you would like to say before?
Yeah, so please go to our campaign website, lightitforward.ph. And of course, go on our Instagram and, Liter of Light, and you could see hundreds of people building solar lights and challenging others. So yeah, you have to go to pivot to a digital space. But remember, the SDGs are never successful till the point that the light reaches the people. So everything else is just, the journey. But what's important and where SDG changes is when the water reaches their lips, when the light reaches their books. I mean, that is the true essence, and not just the awareness. So as we start talking about Zoom and start talking about, campaigns, and how difficult it is to not come together, it's very important that the measurement of achievement must be at the point where it reaches the people, not at the point of just broadcasting and boosting it online. So people more than ever need that inflection point where the goods are turned over to them.
Yeah.
and not the rock concert, right? So yeah, as we go digital, more and more people must know that there are measurements that count, and it's not the top of the line. It's actually the the,
Yeah.
the point that we don't see sometimes.
Absolutely. So on that note, I'm going to end it. So I do want to thank Illac for joining me. It's a pleasure. And this is definitely something I want to do with you again, because as we move closer to Expo and things like that, there's going to be so much around that I think that we can kind of talk about. So it would be a pleasure to have you back on and kind of hear about what's happened over the next 5-6 months as well, which are pretty exciting. So once again, thank you for joining me. And I also hope I get to see you in person at some point in the next year.
Will do. That's actually recorded, so you have to do it. It's when I call you and you can't say that you can't meet me.
That's fair enough. That's
Thank
fair
you.
enough. Okay.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, Mark. Thank you.
Take care.